Yo, welcome back to another video. I hope you're keeping well. Thank you for joining me. So today I have a bit of a sad one for us in the book community. I'm going to be doing my last ever Book Depository book haul because, as we know, the Book Depository recently closed down, and I did do a little bit of panic buying the day before. So I'm going to show you these books. I've left most of them in their packaging, which was so difficult. I don't know how people be doing unboxings. Because, how'd you have the patience? I literally had to wait bang on a week in order to film this because I got my first 3 books Monday of last week, and now I got the rest of them today, and I've just been going out of my mind just waiting to open them and get my little hands all over them. Not read them, I just want to put them on the shelf and look at them. After the book haul, I'm also going to be including a comprehensive list of all the bookish websites that I have found that aren't Amazon. I've specifically been looking at websites that have either free shipping or they ship worldwide, so that people in certain countries where books aren't really imported all that much, or they have trouble getting their hands on certain books, hopefully I've got you covered. So this is what we have to get through today. I'm gonna have a whole heap of recycling to do after this. So the first book up is Shirley Jackson, A Rather Haunted Life by Ruth Franklin. This is a biography on the life of writer Shirley Jackson, obviously from the title. This goes into not only her personal life of herself as a person and her motivations for writing about the topics that she did, but I also hear that it's quite an emotional read based on the fact that Shirley Jackson felt limited in her position in life based on the era that she was born in and the fact that she was a woman. I know that there's basically a 50% chance that I'll end up crying to this. Next up is a completely unnecessary purchase, but it's one that I had my eye on for quite some time. It's one of my all-time favourite books, and it did drop down in price. So that was my rationale for buying it. It is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. The cover is actually illustrated by Daniel Clowes. If you're not familiar with his work, he wrote Ghost World, he wrote Patience, 8 Ball, all these different graphic novels. And just the fact that it's his artwork on one of my all-time favourite books, I kind of just had to do it. I did have the Penguin English Library Edition. Not a huge fan of those books. I'm slowly but surely whittling them out of my collection. Do you know what? I've been looking at it for so long, I was like, screw it. I'm going to reread it again, I'm sure, and I'm still going to love it. If you don't know the plot of Frankenstein, it's about a man called Dr. Frankenstein and the monster that he creates from different body parts, and he brings it to life, and then he realizes that he's gone too far with his experiment and that he can't actually love his creation. And it's basically this really interesting story of alienation, the want for acceptance, the want for love, and what happens when someone doesn't receive those things based on basically how they look. There are a whole heap of other themes in this, obviously, but those are the main ones that stood out to me when I was reading it, which is why I love this story so much. But yeah, a completely unnecessary purchase, because this isn't on the list. This isn't on the criteria of I may never be able to get my hands on this book. I was being greedy. Next up, I have episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. So you've probably seen this doing the rounds on BookTube and Bookstagram and BookTok, because I know I certainly have, and that's the reason why I picked this up in the first place. Didn't even bother reading the plot synopsis. I just figured if everyone else is enjoying it as much as they say they are, then I just kind of want to get in on the action too, you know? I did also pick up some other books by this author because these were some of the ones that I panic bought because I haven't been able to find them in bookshops over here. I haven't been able to find them online, and I felt like this was like my last chance to get them. So this story is about a film crew who are going about filming a reality TV show based on ghost hunting. It's a group of ghost hunters who go to a building to investigate naturally paranormal activity, and they realize once they get to this certain destination that they're in way over their head and really creepy, spooky stuff starts happening. And my mental, image of this is just like Bobby Bottle Service and the Ghost Bouncers. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to be too, mentally distracted with that idea. And, I'll just end up reading this as, a dark comedy. But I'm sure it's going to be terrifying, fingers crossed. Now let's get into the unboxing. I can't wait. I really can't wait. Love it. Love a clean break. Never normally happens for me. Okay, so This is The Ruins by Scott Smith. Oh god, it's very shiny, isn't it? So what I know about The Ruins is that it's a survival horror story. It's about a group of Americans who are traveling to Mexico for a holiday. And while they're there, they befriend other people who are also tourists. And one of the brothers of their new friends goes missing. So they all agree as a group to go into the jungle surrounding wherever they're staying in order to try to find this lad. Then they stumble across a trail which leads to an old Mayan ruin. And then from there, things go south very, very quickly. And I've seen this book on many people's top 10 horror novels of all time, so I'm really, really excited to be finally getting to it. The next book that I have is, if I can get it out, it's Mary by Nat Cassidy. I have seen this doing the rounds on many people's social media, and the Book Depository was the only place that I could actually find a copy of it. It just seems to be completely unavailable here in Ireland in the bookstores and everything like that. So I'm so happy to have a copy of it now. So Mary, An Awakening of Terror is about a middle-aged woman named Mary, and she has recently lost her job in New York, and she doesn't have a whole heap of reasons to be sticking around there. So when she gets notified that her aunt is terribly ill, she decides to return to her hometown in order to look after her. She is a bit anxious and apprehensive about it because she was bullied when she was younger. She was kind of like an outcast, and she's just nervous that she might still be treated that way. When she gets there, she starts having these really weird like visions or nightmares in which she sees her own body dying and decaying. And on top of that, she starts having visions from murdered women in the town. It sounds like it's going to be awesome. To me, personally, I think it's going to be really badass. And the next package contains Eileen by Ottessa Mossvegh. I recently read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by her at the start of the year, and I was like, I am going to read every single book this author has published, and I really wanted the American edition of Eileen. So this book is set in 1964, and our main character had a really abusive upbringing, and because of that, later in life she's developed depression, body dysmorphia, and just a really low self-esteem, and she fantasizes about escaping her life. She works in a prison, and then when she's not there, she's looking after and caring for her alcoholic father, and she just wants a bit more out of life. So when a new counsellor starts working at the prison, the two become quick friends. Ultimately, this isn't the best decision because she gets wrapped up in a crime that she could have never even imagined in her wildest dreams. And that's all I know about the plot of this book. So we have... Ooh! I thought this was going to be bigger. Captain Blood. Oh my god, you can't even see that. The plot of this book has been compared to The Count of Monte Cristo, and then based on me actually going in and checking out the reviews and synopsises of this book, it also kind of reminds me of the plot of Sweeney Todd. Basically, it's about a man who's exiled from England and he's sent off to Jamaica where he's enslaved, and he must like work off his time there. And he's finally freed at a certain point, but he decides to take revenge. And that revenge takes the form of him becoming a pirate. He does remember the kindness that he was shown while he was enslaved by one of the women who was there. But he also is just fit for getting his own back, basically, on how he's been treated and the fact that he was exiled and all that sort of thing. So this sounds like it's going to be fun. I think that this isn't going to be super serious. This is one of my most anticipated classics that I'm going to be reading this year. This is tiny. This is Cold Enough for... Jesus, that glare. So this book is called Cold Enough for Snow, and it's by the author Jessica All. This is obviously a little novella, and it centres around a mother and daughter who go on a trip to Japan. It's told from the daughter's perspective, and it is like a play-by-play of the small interactions that they have and discussions that they have, but ultimately the daughter is still searching to have a connection with her mother. So that's all I know about the story so far, but you know, I have to say I do love a well-timed novella. And when I say well-timed, I mean like when you're 10 books behind on your reading goal and you need to catch up kind of quickly. But aside from that, I do love literary fiction that explores the complexities of human relationships, especially the dynamics of a mother and daughter. So I feel like this story is going to be right up my alley. Next, I have another Craig DeLuey book. It's The Children of Red Peak. So this is about a cult. Primarily, it's about the children who escaped this cult. When later in life, one of the survivors ends up taking their own life, the remaining people realize that they have to dive back into their past in order to understand what actually happened to them and what happened on that last night in which they were able to escape. And in order to do that, they have to go back to where it all happened, which was Red Peak. Again, this sounds quite interesting. I love reading about cults. Okay, let's not say I love the concept of a cult. I love the psychology behind like doublethink and all that sort of thing. I think it's so interesting. And I think it's really interesting how it's normally really intelligent people who get wrapped up in cults too. In that aspect, I feel like I'm going to really enjoy this book. I'm hoping that it's going to be, I don't want to say an entertaining read, because anything that has to do with potential child abuse probably isn't going to be entertaining, but impactful. The last book I'm ever going to open from the Book Depository. This is another shiny. This is huge. Why is it so big? That's going to bother me. Suffer the Children by Craig DeLuey. This is the final book that I have in my haul. Again, this is another book by this author that I thought sounded really weird, and weird enough that I would want to read it. I've seen it in people's lists on Horror Book Talk where they're discussing the most disturbing horror novels that they've ever read, and I keep seeing this book pop up. So I was like, do you know what? While I am hoarding up on this author's work, I might as well get this too. So this is about a pandemic that specifically affects children, and all the children of the world end up dying. But shortly after, whatever it is that infected them causes them to come back to life, but they've come back a little bit different. They're unable to eat normal people food. What they actually need is human blood. And once they get human blood, they return to their former selves and they just seem like normal children again. But that doesn't last for very long, and they constantly need human blood as sustenance in order to stay alive. It's basically the story of how far a parent will go in order to protect their child. And I love those kind of stories. So I think this sounds incredibly interesting, especially because virus horror is like one of my all-time favorite subgenres. Like, I love a good virus. I love a good panny. I love a good apocalypse. So yeah, I have really high hopes for this book. So that concludes the book haul segment of this video. I can't believe I'm never going to unbox another book from the Book Depository. Sad times, really sad times. But stay with me now, as I'm going to recommend a whole heap of online book shopping alternatives to the Book Depository and to Amazon. So I'm going to be starting out with websites that are based in Ireland. So the first one is bookworld.ie. I really like this site because it's all used books. They work closely with charities in order to reduce the book wastage from charity shops. So they buy in bundles of books from charity shops and list them online. And because of that, they have a mixed selection of stuff, and their selection of books is always changing. Now, they do only ship to Ireland, Northern Ireland and the UK, but it is quite cheap in fairness, and I just thought I would feature this since it's a good cause. The second one is Kenny's Bookshop, so kennys.ie, and they ship worldwide, and it's a really good place to go to, especially if you're looking for Folio Society books. They also do secondhand books. They also have signed editions of books and just a very wide variety of kind of specialty books, as well as just your general bestsellers and all that sort of thing. So here we have all the shipping information. So they ship pretty much worldwide, but here's the list of countries that they also include. And of course, everything would be calculated at the checkout. Next is books.ie. This is a site that I really like because they have a really great selection of books. Basically anything you're looking for, you will likely find on here. They have a really good selection of genres, especially when it comes to languages, particularly the Irish language, and academic books for college or school. They do deliver worldwide, but of course always check yourself for your own particular country for how much it's going to cost and for how long you're going to have to wait to get them. Next we have Bookstation. So this is a bookshop here in Ireland that I go into and use quite a lot. I really like them because they do a lot of half price books, and I remember a few years ago I got myself a copy of Mouse, the graphic novel, brand new for €5, so I was delighted with it. So I always make sure that I pop in or check the website to see if there's any books that I'm looking for that are on sale, and they also have worldwide delivery. Next is the bookshop.ie. This is another primarily used online bookshop. They have new books too, but it's primarily used. So you're always going to find stuff on here that you may not have been looking for. You know yourself when you're browsing like a charity shop or you're browsing a secondhand bookstore, you never know what you're going to find. And I kind of like that about this site, because the thing is, you may have to go through some books that you have no interest in getting, but you're always going to find something at a fraction of the price that you would pay for new. And they do offer worldwide delivery, but it goes by weight. Next, we have a French international bookstore. This is called Damn Fine Bookstore, and they have a really decent selection, especially if you're looking for books in various European languages. They do French, Portuguese, Spanish, German, all that type of thing. And they have a really decent selection of horror novels, and I really like that even on the main front page you can see certain horror novels pop up. A lot of these books are books that I want to read. Now, I will say, because they're based in France and they're an independent bookstore, that when it comes to organizing the shipping, they do list all the countries that they ship to. However, it's not until checkout that it's all calculated, so I'm not too sure myself on how much it would cost to buy a handful of books from here. But if anyone has tried this store before, let me know. So then we have Awesome Books. This is another bookstore that's based in the UK, but they are very conscious about the impact of wastage and all that sort of thing. So you can also trade in your books back to them if that's something that you're interested in doing. And again, they offer worldwide delivery. Next up is Waterstones. So I felt a bit silly putting this in here. Obviously, it's not an independent bookstore, but I felt that, like, if you're looking for something very specific, you need one or two big brand bookstores to be shopping from, especially if you're kind of trying to find things that may not be in your local bookstore, or you may not be able to source locally at the library. So I decided to include Waterstones. Now, they do have overseas and international delivery, but again, they have a list of countries that they specifically ship to. So again, just check yourself to see if your country is included, and obviously the postage is then based on that. And then we have Blackwell's. Blackwell's is a super popular bookstore, especially when it comes to people who aren't European, who are specifically looking for the European covers of certain books. So you'll find a lot of Americans are now using this site in order to get the UK covers of certain books, and they have an absolutely fantastic selection. And the prices aren't too bad, especially since you can get special editions, you can get signed editions when it comes to certain books that are coming out. And they do offer worldwide delivery again, but as always, just check yourself to see if your country is included. And again, their shipping is all calculated at the checkout. I'm also listing extra resources down in my description box for sites that I haven't mentioned but still offer worldwide delivery. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!